Welcome to the Metronome Madness League. We have the Nightmares facing off against the Freakshows. Dragapult gonna start things off here with the Hex against the Dragonite on the Freakshows, doing a little bit of damage. Here comes the Dragonite now with an Infernal Parade. It is super effective and it gets a burn on that Dragapult. Good job by the Dragonite, as the burn will lower Dragapult's attack and damage it at the end of every turn. Here comes Dragapult now with a Scratch. Scratch barely doing any damage. Dragonite going once again. This time it goes for a Fiery Dance. Fiery Dance not very effective, but Dragapult already in the yellow and gets hurt by that burn. Good job by the Freakshows so far, as Dragapult now goes for a Night Slash. That still barely does any damage. Dragonite going once again. Fickle Beam from the Dragonite is super effective, and the first Pokemon to faint is for the Nightmares. They'll move on to their Walking Wake now. Walking Wake will take its first turn and go for a Twister, which is super effective. Dragonite in the yellow now. Here comes Dragonite with a Glare. The Glare paralyzing the Walking Wake, so first it gets a burn on the Dragapult and the Paralysis on the Walking Wake. Dragonite getting to go again now that it has slowed down Walking Wake. And it does a Leaf Blade, which does a decent amount of damage. Here comes Walking Wake with the Pollen Puff. That is not very effective, but Dragonite is knocked down into the red zone. Here comes Dragonite again. The Defog. Defog will lower Walking Wake's evasiveness, making it easier to hit. Aurora Veil is going to fail for the Walking Wake. Is not the right kind of weather. There goes a Night Slash from the Dragonite, putting Walking Wake in the yellow. Dragonite doing really well out here. Dragonite, though, knocked out there by the Walking Wake, and Freakshows will move on to their second Pokemon, Wo-Chin. Wo-Chin will lower Walking Wake's attack stat here with his Tablets of Ruin, and it goes for a Burning Jealousy, which is not very effective, but a crit. Walking Wake succumbs to the paralysis, so Wo-Chin gets to go again. And it goes for a Howl this time, raising its own attack. So it lowered the attack for the Walking Wake, raising its own here. And Walking Wake is paralyzed again, 2 turns in a row. Wo-Chin now with a Bind. The Bind, of course, will do some damage at the end of every turn. And Walking Wake gets ever closer to the red zone there. There goes the Arm Thrust, though. That will hit multiple times. It is super effective, but barely doing any damage. Only hits twice. And there goes the Bind, doing a bit of damage. Wo-Chin once again. This time it goes for a Side Shield Badge. That will do it, raising his defenses up there. Wo-Chin's looking pretty good. And the last Pokemon for the Nightmares is Iron Hands. Wo-Chin going for a Bullet Seed. That's not going to really do much. It does hit multiple times. 3 times there, doing an okay amount of damage to the Iron Hands. And Iron Hands goes for a Thrash. Thrash would be a good move, but that defense on Wo-Chin is really decent. The Sacred Sword doing some damage. Thrash hits again. Wo-Chin's in the yellow, but Thrash only hits twice before Iron Hands gets confused, and Wo-Chin now goes for a Bone Rush. Super effective. And it hits multiple times. Once again, multiple hit move puts Iron Hands in the red after 4 hits from the Bone Rush. Iron Hands at the end of its HP. It is confused, and it hits itself into confusion to end the match, giving the win to the Freakshows. So they'll move on. The Nightmares will now move to the losers bracket, where they'll have another chance to possibly make it to the championship. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that match, make sure you subscribe for more of the Metronome Madness League, and I will see you in the next one.